This thing is covered in beach. They had literally taken over this bed and actually apparently was growing something. Here we have one, maybe two. I'm not sure if it's one or two. I think I planted two. I don't know if two ended up growing. Thai squash. There's another word in there. I can't think of what type of Thai squash it was, but I planted them here in the same spot as well last year, and they did amazing. There's a tree stump that's rotting out, and I think it loved the nutrients and the water retention it was getting from that. This year it's been much drier and much hotter, and this area is just beyond the reach of my hose, but also just, I don't know, I never think to water stuff over here, so I would say it's definitely struggled as a result. And I don't know if I planted them later, maybe I stunted them a little bit early on. They definitely did not flourish as much as last year. Gosh, by last year they had literally taken over this bed, and actually I was hesitant to plant them again this year because it almost stifled out a good amount of my plants last year. But what I'm trying to figure out is, so far this is the only one that I've had start growing. It needs to be much bigger than that. So I'm trying to figure out if will it help speed up the production of that squash, and if there's any other squashes. And these are like a hard winter squash, like a almost like a pumpkin type squash, not a zucchini type of squash. But I'm trying to decide if I should go in and trim back some of these trailing pieces that are spending more energy trailing and putting out flowers, and just isolate it to a few that I want to grow. The other thing is, I don't see any other female flowers. They're all male. So again, I'm not sure if it's because A, it was stunted, and then B, because of the heat and the drought, it kind of reset the flower back, or the plant back a little bit. So I'm thinking I'm gonna trim them either way, because at this point I don't really need it growing out so much. And the good thing is, this is great fodder, great food for our chickens, so I'll probably go ahead and do that. But I am curious, what tricks are there that I can do to get at least the few growing more that I want to grow. I like them for eating. I can't say the ones last year had the most amazing flavor. Last year we had the opposite problem. We had a ton of rain, so I would say they were pretty watered down and really didn't sweeten at the end of the season, but I still liked it in certain dishes, and it was great to be able to freeze chunks of it for our chickens. So I'm hoping to be able to do that again, and that is part of the reason I grew it this year. But I just love the way it looks as well. Over the arbor, it just looks so lush and green. Arbor, with our little, is this our little black-eyed Susan vine, which definitely I can tell, potentially invasive from where I had this planted last year. I had 20 million pop-ups, so lesson learned. I don't need to plant seeds. I can just maybe try to move seedlings. I might also try to get ahead of these little flowers. I might rip out the vines before the flowers go to seed. I don't know, we'll see, but I do want to keep it from becoming invasive. We have enough weeds and invasive plants. So yeah, I have that one or those two there, and obviously this one's going to be doing the best because it gets full sun and it's just a great open location. Sorry, I just love watching. There was one bee out here, so this thing is covered in bees. You can't really see them because they're kind of tucked in and around, but there was one earlier that was flying around, just kind of looked like the manager. It was like he was telling everyone else what to do. Interestingly, that particular bee variety and the others like him are gone. This is a different type of bee. Over here, I have another one, and again, just taking advantage of some space. Another stump that is rotting out. This tree we had to cut down. I was so sad. It was a white birch, but that's basically what the center looked like when we cut it out. So it's good that we cut it when we did, and it had to go, but very sad to see it go. And this is another of the squash. I just did a very rudimentary little not wigwam structure, but just a little teepee structure to hold everything up, and again, not good at all. But it looks nice. Greenery for the chickens, making use of space. I don't think I'm gonna get any fruits out of this one either. This one, I don't know. Maybe it was beginner's luck last year that I got, I think, one 15-pound and several like 10-pound squashes last year. And I'm gonna get in here and cut some of this back. Give it to our chickens and they will be happy. But I'm still gonna leave wherever there's flowers, but I'm gonna cut off like the end of this vine. And then there's some that like, they're not really suckers, like tomato suckers, but they kind of branch off. So I'm gonna cut those. Well. I apparently was growing something. The plant gave me a fruit. I cut this and like, fine. I'm not gonna get any big fruit out of my squash this year. I'm just gonna cut some greens, give it to the chickens, at least get some use out of it. Cut it and I start yanking. I'm like, what is pulling so hard? A nice big old fruit. Tuck that. I cut off. So I'm gonna trim. I'm gonna leave some of the vine close to it, hoping that it'll pull it into the squash. And I set this off to the side, but out where it gets pretty full sun, at least full for our property. And figure it'll mature to whatever level it will mature to. It's still soft, so it's definitely not fully ripened. This particular type of pumpkin gets a hard rind on the outside and gets orange. But that's okay. I will be able to probably cut this easier, actually, if it doesn't cure, and I'll probably just cut it into big wedges and freeze it, and it'll probably be for the chickens. I don't think it's going to be ripe enough for us to eat. So unfortunately, I won't have any for us, but that's okay. I'm just excited that I got something. So the plant wasn't a total loss this year, and I'm probably going to cut it in here. I can just do it. I'm thinking maybe above that node. Oops. And actually, these are a little vicious. Not like enough that they'll like leave thorns in you, but definitely you don't want to like grab it really hard just by your hands unless you're prepared for it. It can be a little shocking otherwise. So I'll drag those pieces, give them back to the chickens, and let that sit there for a couple of days, couple of weeks. I'll check on it periodically, make sure it's not getting moldy. It's up on the mulch, so it's not right against the soil, so it should be good to go. Nice greenery for the ladies. All right, this is a weird spot, but I'm trying to get out of the sun because basically it's just making me a big blur on the camera.